This man is a Korean mathematical genius who prefers to live anonymously. He has won numerous major awards in world mathematics research, but in high school, he was just a very normal and quiet person. Currently, an exceptionally talented mathematics teacher gave her students an extremely difficult problem to challenge the top students of the school. All the answers submitted by the best students were incorrect. She was disappointed and about to give up when she received an answer from another student stating that there was no solution because the math problem itself was incorrect. That was the answer the teacher wanted, as she had deliberately given a flawed problem to test the student's reasoning skills. However, she couldn't believe that this student would later become romantically involved with her and even engage in activities that went beyond the teacher-student relationship, despite her having a fiancé. Where will this teacher-student relationship go? And what will become of her career in mathematics? What kind of breakthroughs will the two of them have? We invite you to watch this intriguing movie with us. The fateful meeting between teacher Judu and math genius occurred on a bullet train. They were among the group of winners of that day's math Olympiad. It was Judu's turn to present a problem to the group. Her problem involved a little girl riding a train 1 kilometer south when a bear appeared in the middle of the track. The train immediately changed direction to chase the bear east for 1 kilometer, then north for 1 kilometer. Finally, the train took the girl back home. The question was, what color is the bear? The question was very confusing, causing a group to discuss it heatedly. Everyone thought it was a puzzle with no scientific answer, but one person in the group was seriously contemplating the problem. Suddenly, someone came up with the correct answer. A white bear. Juno excitedly asked about this person's reasoning, but he did not answer her. She had to explain it herself. Because of the train's route, it must have been running near the North Pole, where polar bears with white fur live, so the answer is a white bear. For Junu, mathematics is a colorful world, not dry and merely numerical as many people often think. It was because of this special perspective that she was invited by the chief of the teaching department at the famous Dawn, a high school, to become a professor and teach the school's best students. Junu's trip to the school was on a train where a man kept falling asleep on her shoulder, making her uncomfortable. She moved to the end of the compartment and accidentally bumped into someone as the train went through a tunnel, causing a slight shake. They were both a little confused, and their identical bags fell to the ground. When they regained their composure, Judu was distracted by the 4 numbers on a sign at the approaching station. She quickly grabbed her luggage but took the wrong bag. The man she had bumped into, Dunho, noticed this and returned what he thought was her bag to her. The man who came to pick up Judu was her fiancé. He took her to their future home, which was the gift he had prepared. She was extremely surprised by the earlier events and didn't realize until later that her bag had been exchanged with the young man's from the train. Out of curiosity, she opened his camera and discovered something interesting. The photos this man took were all related to prime numbers and geometry. Meanwhile, when Dunghu returned home, he also discovered that he had the wrong bag. The next day, he proactively contacted Judu to arrange a meeting to exchange bags. He had her number thanks to the Lost and Found Center she had just visited. They arranged to meet the following afternoon outside the Opera House. The two kept texting back and forth without noticing that they had passed each other several times at the school. At Judu's school, she took on the role of mentoring students who excelled in mathematics, but she chose artistic drawings as the basis for her questions. The class president was the first to submit his work and responded very confidently, "My project cannot be wrong." The class vice president, Yin, also refused to give up. She and her tutor worked hard all night solving the problem. Yin's parents were soldiers, so she felt pressured to study well to maintain her father's honor. He had also intended to nominate his daughter to be on a list of students to be personally rewarded by the president. This unintentionally created great pressure for Yin to make such an effort, but the answer that Yin came up with was still incorrect, as were those of the other students. The only exception was an anonymous piece of paper posted on the door stating that if you answer the question correctly, you cannot solve it because it is the wrong question. Judo asked the students around her, but no one dared to admit they were the author of the note. She ran to the security room to check the camera, but it was damaged. This quickly spread it to the school principal. Judo was called to the office. For the principal, the matter of giving wrong questions to test students was meaningless. The reason she invited Judo to teach was to train students to do tests quickly and meet Olympic standards, not to encourage critical thinking, which was completely contrary to her purpose. When Seon-ho solved the problem, he played a trick and stuck a piece of paper saying that this answer was nonsense because there was no specific basis. This certainly offended Seon-ho's self-esteem, so he immediately returned to school to write the solution. In fact, he was the one who found the answer to the white bear question, but when Ms. Juno returned, the person standing in front of the solution paper was Yin. Juno happily thought she had found her genius student. Yin didn't want to give up the glory, so she didn't correct the teacher's assumption. After school, Seon-Hoo went to the meeting point and waited for Junwoo. After a while, she arrived and was able to explain the exact meaning of the sequence of numbers on the hat, which was a special prime number. The two of them returned the bags to each other, but when Junwoo asked Seon-Hoo if he liked math, he shook his head and left immediately. Unfortunately, it suddenly started to rain. Seon-Hoo gave up his only umbrella to the teacher, surprising Junwoo, who had no time to react. Meanwhile, Mrs. Dawn proactively invited Yin to meet her, knowing that Yin could not have found the mistake in the math problem with her own abilities, but still wanted her to claim that she was the one who solved the problem. Only then could Yin be trained by Ms. Junwoo to become a talented mathematician. Yin agreed but was immediately exposed when called to the board to explain her solution to the whole class, which she couldn't do. Junwoo realized the problem but didn't immediately expose it. Waiting for the whole class to leave, she met Yin privately to ask about it. Yin admitted that she couldn't solve this problem. While Junwoo had a headache looking for that special student, she accidentally saw a video from the dance club. Coincidentally, this video captured the image of Seon-Hoo solving the problem. This was the person Junwoo was looking for. She immediately ran everywhere looking for him and finally found him sleeping on a bench behind the school. The teacher's call pulled him out of his past nightmare. At this third meeting, the two people's fate officially became intertwined. Junwoo took the initiative to introduce herself and then looked at Seon-Hoo's name tag. He still remained silent and followed her to the review room. Seon-Hoo did not admit that he was the one who could solve the problem, using the excuse that he didn't dare to lie to the teacher. Junwoo punished him by requiring him to attend her training class every Monday morning. Mrs. Dawn not only had to run the prestigious Ong High School, but also had to keep it at the top to compete with her sister's international school. If the two sisters couldn't prove their abilities to their father, their position in the family would be shaken. So right after dinner with Dawn, his father, and younger sister, they immediately had a private meeting with the congressman, who is also Yin's father, to discuss installing their own people on the jury of the Olympic competition with the aim of choosing a winner beneficial to them. Even so, the school still had to find the best students to send to compete. From her fiancé, Junwoo also learned about this contest. She really wanted to appoint Seon-Hoo to represent the school's math department in the exam, but when she checked his academic results, she discovered that this boy always deliberately did poorly to avoid getting a perfect score. She decided from then on to make this student reveal his talent. The next day, she called Seon-Hoo to the training class so he could combine the photos he took into reduced forms, fractions, and integrals of advanced mathematics. Junwoo asked Seon-Hoo to represent the school in the Olympics, but was immediately rejected by him. Seon-Hoo thought that the teacher had an ulterior motive, which was why she gave him special treatment. Junwoo didn't bother to explain that she didn't care about Seon-Hoo's intelligence. She cared about his eyes that look at the world through a mathematical perspective. Then she wrote a question on the board, believing that when he solved it, he would understand what his heart wanted and then he would want to participate in the contest. Unexpectedly, right after that, Seon-Hoo's father proactively came to find Junwoo to show her proof that his son was directly recruited to practice math at the age of 8. The father wanted the teacher to continue to train his son and let him go to the Olympics, but he didn't want to reveal the reason why Seon-Hoo hated math, fearing he had been hurt in the past. Junwoo refused his father's proposal. Yin silently went to Dong A to ask for special permission to become an Olympic contestant without going through the school-level selection competition, but she was immediately refused. Dong then put pressure on Yin, saying if she couldn't win the school competition, she wouldn't be worthy of this prestigious school. Seon-Hoo returned home with conflicting thoughts. Even though he didn't want to, his mind was still pondering Ms. Junwoo's math problem, and he suddenly solved it. Ms. Junwoo also looked up his history when he was 8 years old. She realized that perhaps he had failed in the Math Olympiad that year, so Seon-Hoo later did not dare to admit that he was a genius anymore. Throughout the night, neither she nor her student could sleep. Junwoo had to ride her bike to school to clear her mind when she suddenly discovered that Seon-Hoo was also there, solving the problem. She gave him a helping hand. Immediately, a series of ideas appeared in both their heads. This person's theory awakened the other person's passion for mathematics, and both of them worked to solve the problem without noticing when morning came. When the board was full of formulas, even though they still couldn't find the solution, they both temporarily stopped. Seon-Hoo discovered that he was able to reawaken the excitement and immersion when solving problems, and Ms. Junwoo realized that her student was being forced to face his psychological trauma, so she decided to let him freely choose what he wanted. The scene of the teacher and student solving the problem together reached the head of the teaching department. She was hunting for excellent students, so she couldn't ignore it. Meanwhile, Yin and her father went to see a horse race. The horse chosen was always the strongest and would definitely win. That made Yin start to feel self-conscious because from the moment she was born, she wasn't the best. Recognizing her daughter's insecurities, that night the congressman secretly met with Mrs. Dawn A. As soon as he mentioned the Olympic exam, she immediately knew that his goal was to nominate his daughter, so she proactively suggested that he use his status as a congressman to help her school pass the evaluation council to convert it into a gifted math school. If successful, she would support Yin so that Seung-hoo could not compete with Yin for exam slots. The head of teaching immediately invited Seung-hoo's father to the school after seeing the scene of his son solving math problems. The father was so moved that he burst into tears, thinking that his son had regained his old spirit. Dong immediately took the opportunity to advise the father to move his son to another school so that he could reveal all his talents. Returning home, the couple sat down to watch a video of their son's love of mathematics when he was young and felt extremely proud. They hoped that the boy would once again relive that passion and talent. When Seung-hoo returned home, his mother immediately hugged him tightly, and his father expressed hope that he would transfer to a science-gifted school to study. From now on, he had to continue doing math, and they would create conditions for him to take extra classes. Feeling extremely suffocated, Seung-hoo didn't want to, but his father grabbed him by the neck and pushed him into the closet. His father wanted his son to continue to bring glory to him, forgetting that his talent would be wasted under such pressure. The damage caused by his father was so great that Seung-hoo ran away. Just as he ran out, he met Ms. Junoo. Seeing that her student had lost his temper, she immediately chased after him, but when she suddenly grabbed his hand, he misunderstood her intentions. He thought she was a fake person who pretended to care, but just wanted to take advantage of him. The next day, Junoo went to ask the subject teacher and found out that Seung-hoo was about to transfer to a gifted school to practice for exams when he was taken away by his father. She risked her life to run out to stop him. Even though he was Seung-hoo's father, she argued that he had no right to force the boy. She wanted him to give Seung-hoo to her to teach, believing that only by letting him do math freely would his talent be able to grow and flourish. The father, unable to hear a word, insisted on forcing his son to get on the school transfer bus, but all of these scenes were witnessed by Dong A from above. Everything was still in her arrangement. Seung-hoo moved to a new school, while Junoo and other teachers were conducting the school-level exam to select students. When a Chang High School held the entrance exam, Seung-hoo had to take a test to be accepted into the gifted school. He tried to solve the problem quickly, but at the same time, Ms. Junoo also tried to prolong the time, hoping that Seung-hoo would be able to return to a Chang school in time to take the entrance exam. At the last minute, Junoo had to close the door herself, but a hand held her back. Seung-hoo did not disappoint her. He happily told the teacher that he had found the answer to last night's math problem. Junoo immediately pulled her student into the room and asked the head of the department to let him participate in the entrance exam. The appearance of Seung-hoo threatened all the good students present. Even though Donna didn't want to, Seung-hoo hadn't finished transferring schools yet, so he still had the right to take a Chang school's exam. Before that, Yin was told in advance by her math teacher, so she just needed to rewrite what she had memorized. She was afraid to solve problems on her own in the 100 minutes given, but her speed was not at all inferior to Seung-hoo's. At the end of the exam time, Yin came to blame Seung-hoo for competing for a slot to take the Olympic exam with her. Now he could frankly tell her that he likes math and wasn't forced to take the exam. The exam results showed that both Yin and Seung-hoo got perfect scores. Yin was not satisfied with this result, and Seung-hoo didn't care if he could take the Olympic exam or not. He just wanted to continue studying math with his teacher. Junoo was called to the teacher's office to discuss the matter of going to the Olympics. Because she had taken the Olympic exam before, she understood the rules of marking. If two people got the same score, they had to retake the exam to be fair. Danoni knew that Yin's strength wouldn't be able to beat Seung-hoo, so she immediately invited the parents of the two students to her office. Thanks to the congressman's connections, she found out that there was a school that had no students participating in the Olympic competition, so she decided to let Yin be the representative of that school to go to the competition alongside Seung-hoo. She not only kept talented students for her school, but also helped the congressman's daughter to compete in the Olympics. The senator was not willing to let such a strong opponent like Dawn A exist, but Dawn still wanted to keep the talented people for the school. She holds a great desire to improve the school into a royal school specializing in training talented people for the country without being controlled by the Ministry of Education. This way she can do business with tuition money, and then children of high-ranking officials will all be sent to this school for her to train. Hearing the news that Seung-hoo and Yin will both be trained to take the Olympic exam caused the whole school to be in chaos. Junoo will be the exam preparation teacher. She gave the two of them their first test, used mathematical language to sketch out a topic and then present it within 3 minutes. Yin didn't like Seung-hoo and even Junoo, so she made an excuse to leave. That's all for today. If you want to know what happened next and subscribe my channel, I will upload the second part of this series very soon. And don't forget to comment below and tell me what movie or series you want me to recap next.